Diana was no stranger to hardship. Every day she donned her worn-out apron, tied her hair back tightly, and stepped into the bustling restaurant where she worked as a waitress. Her world was a constant whirl of clattering plates, hurried orders, and polite smiles masking exhaustion. But beneath that tired exterior lay a spirit that refused to be crushed, a spirit burning quietly with dreams too big for the small-town streets she knew so well. Diana's life was a daily balancing act. She worked long hours, trying to scrape together enough money to support herself and her younger brother, who was struggling with a physical disability. Despite her challenges, she never let her smile fade. It was her armor, her quiet rebellion against a world that often overlooked people like her. One rainy afternoon, as Diana carried a tray laden with plates through the restaurant, her eyes caught a peculiar sight: a young man sitting alone outside the cafe, his crutches resting beside him. His clothes were threadbare, his face shadowed by weariness. But what struck Diana most was the spark of determination in his eyes. His name was Lucas. Lucas had been fighting his own battles for as long as he could remember. Born with a condition that made walking a daily struggle, he had endured the silent pity and stares of strangers. He had learned to hide behind his shyness, masking his pain with quiet smiles and avoidance. But when Diana approached him, something shifted. Without hesitation, Diana invited him inside, ordering a warm meal for him with her own money. Over the next few days, their paths crossed repeatedly. Diana learned that Lucas dreamed of dancing, an impossible dream for someone with his disability. But she refused to let him give up. With gentle encouragement, she helped him practice small steps, turning the cafe's back room into a makeshift dance floor. Their bond grew stronger with every shared laugh and struggle. Diana found herself inspired by Lucas's resilience, and Lucas felt a newfound hope igniting inside him. Meanwhile, far away from the modest cafe in the towering glass offices of Montgomery Enterprises, Richard Montgomery surveyed the city with a calculating gaze. A billionaire businessman, Richard's life revolved around power, profit, and prestige. To him, people were numbers and emotions were distractions. But fate has a curious way of weaving lives together. One evening, Richard's son, Lucas Montgomery, arrived at the family mansion, a young man with a disability and a gentle soul, who often felt like an outsider in his father's ruthless world. Seeing his son struggle to find his place, Richard's stern heart began to crack. When Richard learned of Diana, the waitress who had captured Lucas's attention and heart, he dismissed her as insignificant. But Lucas insisted she was different. She had breathed life into his dreams. This was the beginning of a story that would challenge the walls built by wealth and prejudice, and transform not just two lives, but the world around them. Lucas Montgomery had never known the warmth of genuine kindness until he met Diana. Their friendship, forged in the simplest moments of shared struggle, was a sanctuary away from the cold judgment that marked his family's grand estate. With Diana, Lucas could dream without restraint, dream of dancing, of freedom, of acceptance. The cafe, once just a place for Diana to earn her living, became the stage for their quiet rebellion against fate. Every evening after her shift, Diana would push back the tables, clear the floor, and transform the cramped space into a dance studio. Lucas, with his crutches leaning against the wall, would attempt tentative steps, his body trembling with effort and hope. "You're doing amazing, Lucas," Diana encouraged one night, her eyes shining with pride. "No matter what anyone says, you're a dancer. Just wait and see." It was hard for Lucas to believe in himself when the world often reminded him of his limitations. But Diana's unwavering faith sparked something deep inside him, a hunger to prove that his body was not his prison. Meanwhile, the divide between their worlds loomed larger than ever. Richard Montgomery, Lucas's father, was growing suspicious of his son's new attachment to a waitress. To Richard, Diana represented everything his family despised: poverty, vulnerability, and the threat of tarnishing their pristine image. He decided to intervene. One afternoon, Richard showed up at the Two Cafe unannounced. His tall frame and expensive suit cast a shadow over the humble establishment. Diana recognized him instantly, a chill running down her spine. "You don't belong here," Richard said coldly, his voice laced with disdain. "Lucas needs to focus on his future, not get distracted by people like you." Diana's heart pounded, but she met his gaze steadily. "Lucas is not a project or a problem to fix, he's a person, and so am I. We all deserve respect." Richard sneered, unaccustomed to being challenged by someone from a world so far removed from his own. Yet, there was something in Diana's defiance that unsettled him. Despite his warnings, Lucas refused to cut ties with Diana. He began to push back against his father's rigid expectations, seeking his own path, a path where he could be true to himself. With Diana's help, Lucas started attending physical therapy sessions more seriously and even signed up for a local dance class tailored for people with disabilities. The road was rocky. Lucas faced pain, frustration, and moments of despair. But Diana was always there, reminding him why it was worth fighting. Their bond deepened into something tender and unspoken, a promise of support, acceptance, and hope. Yet beyond their personal journey, a larger story was unfolding. The town began to notice Lucas's progress and the unlikely partnership that defied social norms. Some sneered, others gossiped, but a few quietly admired the courage it took for both to break free from their expected roles. Diana's younger brother, who had been skeptical at first, now watched with awe as Lucas's transformation inspired not just himself, but the whole family. It was as if Lucas's courage was contagious. At the same time, Richard Montgomery wrestled with his own demons. The cold businessman found himself haunted by memories of his own childhood, moments of loneliness, pressure, and unspoken dreams buried beneath his iron will. Watching his son fight for happiness stirred feelings he had long suppressed. The conflict between Richard's desire for control and his love for Lucas came to a head at a lavish charity gala, where Lucas and Diana were unexpectedly invited as guests. Under the dazzling chandeliers and amidst the elegant crowd, worlds collided. Lucas took Diana's hand and led her onto the polished dance floor, defying the whispers and stares. Music swelled, and with every step, Lucas shed the weight of doubt and fear. Diana's encouragement echoed in his heart. In that moment, the boundaries between privilege and poverty, disability and ability, fear and courage blurred. The ballroom witnessed not just a dance, but a powerful declaration that true strength lies in vulnerability, and love can bridge even the widest divides. The night of the gala marked a turning point for Lucas and Diana. Their dance was the talk of the event, whispered initially in shock, then in admiration. Lucas's determination to rise above his physical limitations and social expectations sparked a ripple effect, stirring conversations among the guests, including those who once looked down upon him. But change is never easy, especially when it threatens the comfort of the status quo. In the days following the gala, Lucas's father, Richard, found himself torn. On one hand, he was proud of his son's courage and progress. On the other, his pride was wounded by the challenge Lucas posed to the family's rigid traditions. Behind the grandeur of the Montgomery estate, Richard sat alone in his study, wrestling with his feelings. The man who had always controlled everything found himself powerless against the force of his son's resolve. Meanwhile, Diana's life was also evolving. The attention from the gala brought new opportunities, but also new pressures. Some customers came to the cafe hoping to catch a glimpse of the inspirational pair, while others judged Diana more harshly, questioning her motives and loyalty. Yet she stood firm, knowing that her path was no longer just about survival. It was about transformation. She began to dream bigger, envisioning a future where she could help others like herself and Lucas break free from their limitations. Lucas, too, found a new purpose. His dance classes became a beacon for others with disabilities. He organized a small group to practice together, creating a community of support and empowerment. Their bond grew stronger, fueled by shared dreams and challenges. They learned to lean on each other, finding strength in vulnerability. But not everyone was ready to accept this new reality. At school, Lucas faced harsh whispers and stares. Some students mocked his crutches and awkward movements, while others were intimidated by his refusal to be defined by his disability. One afternoon, a confrontation with a group of classmates escalated, leaving Lucas shaken but unbroken. Diana was there, her fierce loyalty shining as she stood up for him. "Lucas is stronger than you'll ever be," she said, eyes blazing. "And he's not alone." The incident spread quickly, sparking a debate among students and teachers about inclusion and respect. Slowly, attitudes began to shift. Lucas's courage inspired not only those with disabilities but also those who felt unseen or unheard. Back at the Montgomery estate, Richard's perspective began to soften. He watched as his son blossomed, no longer the fragile boy he once thought, but a young man forging his own path with dignity and determination. One evening, Richard invited Diana to the estate for dinner, a small but significant gesture. The meeting was awkward at first, but as they talked, walls started to crumble. Richard shared stories from his youth, struggles, regrets, and hopes he had buried beneath his ambitions. Diana listened, her empathy bridging the gap between their worlds. By the end of the evening, a fragile understanding was born. Lucas, Diana, and Richard were beginning to rewrite their story, one of acceptance, growth, and healing. But the road ahead was still long, filled with challenges and moments that would test their resolve. As the seasons changed, so did the lives of those who dared to dream differently. The cafe became more than just a place to work. It became a symbol of hope. Lucas and Diana planned a community event, a dance showcase featuring performers of all abilities, breaking barriers and celebrating diversity. The preparations brought the town together, uniting people across social divides. On the night of the showcase, the auditorium was packed. Families, friends, skeptics, and supporters gathered to witness a celebration of resilience and human spirit. Lucas took the stage, his heart pounding. With Diana by his side, he danced like never before, each movement a testament to their journey of victory over fear and prejudice. The applause was thunderous, echoing beyond the walls of the auditorium. For the first time, Lucas felt truly seen, not as a disabled boy or a wealthy heir, but as a person who had dared to break free. And Diana, standing in the spotlight, knew their story was only just beginning. The night of the dance showcase marked a new chapter not just for Lucas and Diana, but for the entire community. The event had stirred something profound, a collective realization that strength and beauty come in many forms, and that inclusion is not just a lofty ideal, but a necessity. Following the showcase, Lucas's life took on new dimensions. Invitations arrived from neighboring towns, asking him to share his story and lead workshops. He became a beacon of hope, inspiring others to challenge their own limitations and prejudices. Diana's cafe flourished as well. The once small, overlooked spot became a vibrant hub for creativity and support, hosting art shows, poetry readings, and community meetings. Diana herself was transformed, from a waitress struggling to survive to a community leader with a clear vision for change. Yet with growth came new pressures. The attention brought scrutiny from those who still clung to old beliefs. Some questioned Diana's motives, accusing her of using Lucas for publicity. Others doubted the sustainability of their efforts. But Lucas and Diana had learned to face criticism with grace. Their partnership was rooted in mutual respect and shared dreams, making them stronger in the face of adversity. At home, Richard struggled with his own evolving identity. The once stern patriarch began to see the limitations of his rigid worldview. He started attending support groups for families of people with disabilities, seeking to understand and heal old wounds. One quiet afternoon, Richard invited Lucas to join him on a drive. They talked openly about fears, hopes, and the future. Richard admitted his mistakes and expressed pride in Lucas's resilience. "It's not the life I imagined for you," he said softly. "But it's your life, and you've made it extraordinary." Lucas felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time, he saw his father not as a judge, but as a man willing to change. Diana's presence in their lives deepened this healing. She and Richard found common ground in their love for Lucas and their desire to support him. The trio began to build a new kind of family, one based on acceptance, love, and growth. As spring arrived, so did new opportunities. Lucas received a scholarship to a university with a strong program in adaptive dance. It was a chance to expand his horizons and continue his mission. The decision was bittersweet. Leaving behind the community he had helped build was hard, but the promise of growth and learning called him forward. Diana vowed to keep the cafe thriving and support Lucas's journey from afar. They promised to remain each other's greatest allies no matter the distance. Before leaving, Lucas organized a farewell event at the cafe, a celebration of their shared journey. Friends, neighbors, and supporters gathered to honor their courage and the change they had sparked. As Lucas spoke, his voice steady and full of emotion, he reminded everyone that their journey was far from over. "We've shown that barriers can be broken, and that every person has value," he said. "But this is just the beginning. Together, we can build a world where everyone is seen, heard, and empowered." The applause was overwhelming. Tears and smiles mingled as the community embraced the vision Lucas and Diana had ignited. In the weeks that followed, Lucas settled into university life. The challenges were different but no less daunting. New environments, new faces, and the pressure to succeed weighed on him, but he carried with him the lessons learned: courage, resilience, and the power of community. Diana continued to nurture their cafe and their dreams. She expanded her efforts, partnering with local organizations to provide resources and opportunities for people with disabilities. Their love endured, strengthened by distance and shared purpose. Meanwhile, Richard became an advocate, using his influence to promote accessibility and inclusion in the city. His transformation was a testament to the power of empathy and growth. Together, they were changing not only their lives, but the world around them. The journey was far from easy, but it was theirs. A story of hope, courage, and the unstoppable human spirit. As the seasons changed once again, Lucas found himself standing on the threshold of a new chapter, both in his personal journey and in the broader movement he and Diana had helped ignite. University life was challenging. The academic rigor was demanding, the social landscape complex, and the pressure to excel intense. Yet, Lucas faced each day with the same determination that had carried him through every obstacle since his accident. The dance program was inclusive and supportive, with professors and peers eager to learn from his unique perspective. But beyond the classroom and studio, Lucas understood his mission had grown. It was no longer just about proving his own capabilities, but about advocating for systemic change, accessibility in education, opportunities in the arts for people with disabilities, and breaking down the invisible walls society often placed around difference. Back in town, Diana's cafe had blossomed into a cultural beacon. It was more than a place to eat or drink. It was a community center, a workshop space, and a safe haven for those seeking acceptance. Through partnerships with disability rights groups and local artists, Diana fostered an environment where stories like Lucas's could inspire others. Their love, though tested by distance, was stronger than ever. Regular calls, messages, and visits reminded them of their shared vision and the deep bond they had formed. They spoke often about the future, dreams of expanding their work, creating programs for young people with disabilities, and building a legacy of empowerment. Richard's transformation was perhaps the most profound. He had become a vocal advocate for disability rights in the city council, using his influence to push for policies that ensured equal access to public spaces and education. His relationship with Lucas had healed into one of mutual respect and understanding. One chilly evening, Lucas returned home for a visit, greeted by the warmth of Diana's cafe buzzing with life. The community had grown, and so had the movement they had sparked together. At the cafe, a celebration was underway, the launch of a new initiative aimed at providing scholarships and mentorship for disabled youth pursuing the arts. Lucas, Diana, and Richard stood together, united in purpose. Lucas addressed the crowd, his voice steady and filled with conviction. This is not just about dance or art. It's about recognizing the potential in every person regardless of the challenges they face. It's about creating a world where no one is limited by others' expectations or prejudices. The applause that followed was thunderous, filled with hope and promise. Later that night, as the celebration wound down, Lucas and Diana stood outside beneath a sky full of stars. The city lights twinkled around them, but it was the light within, the light of change, resilience, and love, that truly shone. "We've come so far," Diana said softly, taking his hand. "We have," Lucas agreed. "But there's still so much more to do." Together they looked ahead, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing they had each other and a community behind them. Their story was a testament to the power of compassion, determination, and transformation. From the depths of hardship to the heights of hope, they had shown that true strength lies not in perfection, but in embracing one's humanity and fighting for a better world. As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of gold and pink, Lucas felt a profound sense of peace. The journey had been long and difficult, but every step had been worth it. A new day was beginning, for him, for Diana, for Richard, and for the countless lives they had touched. And with it came the promise of a future built on acceptance, love, and limitless possibility.